Alrighty guys, welcome back to another little video, and today we got a fun one. Today we are going to be having a little bit of an experience. Today was... actually, no. Alrighty guys, welcome back to another little video, and today we got a fun one. Kind of. Today we are going to be taking a look at my dual GTX 680 PC. There's kind of a story that goes along with this one, and let's just say things did not exactly end the way that I expected them to, so, without any further ado, let's get into it. Before I forget to mention, like, comment, subscribe, yada yada, all that fun stuff. Yeah. Let's get into it. Okay, so let me first kind of go over how I actually came into ownership of these parts. So I browse eBay almost every single day, and I spend a lot of time looking to see what kind of deals I can actually find. And I came across these dual GTX 680s, and they were listed for $170. They had EK water blocks as well as an EK connecting or parallel block to connect the two graphics cards together. And it just happened to be that the spacing of those was perfect for the spacing on my motherboard for my i7-2600K. And so I added it to my watch list and figured that I wasn't going to spend that much money on these things. So I went and I got in the shower. By the time I got out of the shower, the guy had a $40 discount on it. So I only spent about $130 on it instead of the $170. And after seeing that $40 discount, I knew that there was no other option. I had to pick that thing up, so, yeah. Okay. But there's a little bit of weird stuff that came with these cards. When I purchased those cards, there was a screenshot from a Tech Power Up GPU Z that showed both of these cards being GTX 680s that were, or that had SK Hynix memory, as well as the fact they were Zotac amp cards. Well, when I got the cards and I disassembled them, one of them was most definitely a Zotac amp card with SK Hynix memory, but the other one had Samsung memory. I took that card, loaded into a system, and it still displayed having SK Hynix memory, so I know somebody flashed the BIOS of this card to make it look like it actually is a Zotac amp card. Don't know if it was the seller or the previous owner or whatever, but, you know, just had to add that little piece in there because, yeah, it was kind of interesting. So now that I've kind of gone over the cards, the rest of the system is an i7-2600K overclocked to 4.6 gigahertz and 16 gigs of DDR3 2133 CL11, I want to say. It's like CL11, 11, 11, 28, I think. I don't remember exactly what the CL timing is, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, this was one of the most anticipated things that I think I've ever gotten because I've never had the opportunity to mess around with SLI before, so I had no idea what to, or like what I was expecting going into it. And yeah, I decided to do it on Windows 11. Surprisingly, one of the best things that I could have done, because when I installed both of these GPUs, simply installed the drivers, and SLI was already working. So SLI enabled itself without any issue, both cards were recognized, and yeah. So why don't we get into some benchmarks? The first game that I benchmarked was Grim Dawn. Now, Grim Dawn doesn't actually say that it supports SLI, but while playing Grim Dawn, I noticed some pretty decent SLI scaling. We were sitting right about the 80 to 90% on one card, and then about 60 to 80% on the second card, and that was in some of the most demanding areas. The next game that I tested was another game by Create Entertainment, and is the newest game on my test list, and that is Furthest Frontier, the brand new game that just came out from Create Entertainment. It is a colony survival game, and by the way, you guys, if you're into, like, colony games, definitely go and check this one out. But for SLI scaling, this one really didn't work very well. It was sitting at about 60 to 50% on both cards. The frame rate was sitting at 60 FPS, and it was very much a playable and enjoyable experience, but overall, the scaling just really didn't seem to work. The next game that I tried was City Skylines, and I did the Benchmark City. This is not an easy-to-run title, and loading up Benchmark City is rather quite demanding, and let me tell you, this game did not work with SLI. Both cards were sitting in the 30 to 50% range, and the FPS numbers were sitting in the mid to low 30s to 40s, and it really was not what I would consider to be playable. The next game that I tested has been the one that I have been playing the most of recently, and that is some good old-fashioned Battletech. Turn-based strategy game, yada yada. I've really been enjoying this game, and this game actually worked relatively well with SLI in most situations. For some reason, some maps, I was getting only about 40 to 50% scaling on each card, but then there were some maps where I was hitting at 90 and 90, with relatively decent FPS numbers all the way around. I cannot talk today. And the next game that I tested was some BeamNG Drive, and seizure warning, because good lord, this game did not work. The SLI scaling was amazing at about 100%, 100%, but that was headache and seizure inducing. Like, bad. Very bad. So the next game that I tested was actually kind of a surprising one, and that was The Elder Scrolls Online. I was getting anywhere between 80 to 90% on both cards, and they both ran freaking fantastically. So, as I had said, things had not exactly gone as planned, but Cross, things have been going pretty good, right? Well, after I had ran some Elder Scrolls Online benchmarks, I decided that I was going to do some B-roll shots. B-roll shots that ended up getting corrupted, so I couldn't even use them. Well, let's just say the pump that you guys saw inside of the computer was not the original pump that was inside. When I had gotten done taking the B-roll shots, I was unaware that I busted the pump top. This little plastic piece here, or this acrylic piece, is supposed to be attached inside of this, holding the shaft that the impeller sits in, so it keeps the impeller from banging around on the inside of the pump. This is a variable speed SC600, which is a pretty common pump over in China, and I had gotten this one specifically with my hardline water cooling starter kit. And this pump had been very, very good for me, but evidently I was not being careful enough when I was taking my B-roll shots, because I know that I had set the computer down somewhat hard, and it turns out that I had broken the impeller housing inside of my pump. But that's not the worst thing that happened there. After getting done doing all the B-roll shots, I decided that I was going to load up the computer again and start doing some more benchmarks, because there's a lot of games that I wanted to test. So I had turned on the computer, started installing some games, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to run a couple. Well, I started trying to benchmark Tom Clancy's The Division, the original, and as I started the benchmark, my screen went black. And I had a very strong burning smell coming out of that computer. The screen went black and it turned itself off. The entire computer shut itself off. Then I had thought that maybe my overclock had been unstable, or maybe something had gone wrong. Well, when I restarted the computer, the first thing I did was open up MSI Afterburner, and both of my cards are running at 95 degrees Celsius. And at that point in time, I hit my power supply button and shut down the entire system, because I thought that I had known what happened. So, the reason this video has been so late was because the pump you saw in the B-roll shots is actually just a standard SC600 that I had purchased to replace that pump. After replacing the pump, waiting for the new pump to come in the mail, and then replacing the pump, I decided that I was going to start running some more benchmarks and testing out the system. Well, my first indication that something was wrong was actually something that I didn't catch the first time I had turned on the computer. I use a 2560 by 1080p ultra wide, where that graphics card or that graphics card configuration had never had any trouble having the post screen be in 2560 by 1080p. When I had turned on the computer, it was actually at a 4:3 aspect ratio and it was not full screen, which it had always been full screen in the past, but now it wasn't. Getting into Windows, everything seemed to be fine, there wasn't any artifacting, and I had thought that things were going to be going much more normal. Well, that's when the very weird kind of, what word am I looking for? Very weird kind of things started happening. Let me get into the rest of the benchmarks that I had done. Essentially, I had decided that I was going to replace the pump inside of this computer, and I was going to run the rest of the benchmarks because I figured, the cards would be fine. So, let's load up a game that I know for a fact has very good SLI scaling. Fallout 4. In Fallout 4, the second card was not scaling correctly. Even though we were getting 60 to 70% scaling, the system, it didn't feel right. Like, the game was running incredibly laggy and incredibly slowly compared to what I had tested it before, because I had tested it and it was getting perfect 100% scaling. Not this time. The next game that I had tested was Star Wars Empire at War, Forces of Corruption, and I knew that this game wasn't going to probably take advantage of both GPUs, but I was sitting in the very low frame rates when I would have been expecting to see like 50 to 70, I was sitting in the 40s. And next up, another game that I know actually properly worked, Rainbow Six Siege. Now, Rainbow Six Siege, as you guys can tell by the video right now, according to the cards, they are scaling properly, and according to the cards, I'm getting 155-ish FPS, but I cannot load a 3D application. And after this point, I was having a very hard time even getting games to boot. So when I overheated the cards, I killed one of them or I killed both of them. And I haven't really done much testing after that. I replaced the pump, so I had figured that everything was going to be fine, because I know these older cards still have overheat protection. But I am 99% sure that if I were to pull out that second 680, the one that had the Samsung memory, I'm pretty sure the system would probably fire right up and wouldn't have any issues just running the one 680. Yeah, this was not exactly how I wanted this video to go, because I had a lot of other testing and a lot of experimenting that I wanted to do. But the computer has become almost unusable because I can't even get any 3D applications to run, and trying to open up something like Vegas Pro just automatically crashes the entire computer now. So I haven't done any further testing on the system since, but I knew that I needed to get this video out because I can't wait any more time for parts or replacements, because, I mean, this video is already a week out of date, or a week overdue. So, yeah. How did my first SLI experiment go? Freaking fantastic until I overheated it and killed one of the cards. Thank you for watching. Peace!